if the most fearful situations that we hold in our minds came true, I think we would eventually find out that we can survive them. To be yourself actually means to risk being rejected, because rejection is only one part of an experience. What comes through it can also be openness and growth and acceptance and forgiveness. When said out loud, all of these are words, but as an experience, to go through it takes time and sometimes self-reflection and effort and patience. And sometimes just a good old cry, When you share your quirky side, the right people will absolutely love it. Hello, welcome back to Teaside Thursday, and today I am drinking a hot lemon tea. So this is actually my second episode that I'm recording tonight. I am in my very comfy clothes. It's evening time and I have this light blaring down on my face so that there is a better lighting in this room, and I've just had dinner, so that's actually why I'm drinking hot lemon tea, to help with digestion. It's still warm, despite the fact that I was talking previously when I started to drink it, so that's good. And also I wanted to mention, if you're seeing me in plaits, and you might see that my hair is a bit shiny. If that's the case, then it's because I actually have a lot of coconut oil in my hair. So back in the country where I was born, in Myanmar, people tend to put coconut oil in their hair as a conditioner, and also sometimes even as a leave-in conditioner. And that's what I have always done, since I was young, actually. I love putting coconut oil all over myself, but more importantly, I love putting it in my hair, and I normally sort of leave it in plaits even for a couple of days before I wash it. And I think it does something good for my hair. If anything, I just really like having oil on my face, in my hair. There's something really natural about it that I really like. So yeah, you're getting quite cozy with me today. I don't know whether I'm going to post this video first, even though I recorded it as a second segment. I'm not sure, but we'll see how it goes. So today I wanted to talk about rejection. I was talking on a previous Teaside Thursday episode. I can't remember the topic actually, but I remember mentioning rejection, and I thought that that would actually be a great topic to touch on, as a person who is feeling as a person, I do feel like, especially now, sort of going into my own path, creating my own path, and sort of holding a form of artistic life, I do find that it brings a lot of internal and sometimes external rejection. Baby girl, no, go. Oh, sorry, that was my cat. She was trying to get into one of the drawers. But anyway. And now she's trying to get out of the room, and she's able to do it, so that's good. Right, so rejection. Where to start? I'll start with this story because I think it's very inspirational, personally for me. I just came back from visiting my friend a few days ago, and we were sharing our personal experiences, and I was telling her about my experience currently, where I feel like my very existence is in complete contrast with the people around me, with the people who are the closest physically and emotionally to me. So, for example, my partner mostly works from home, and like being in at home and creating art and making these videos, and also him working in a sort of 9 to 5 corporate job, like I feel like my very existence is in contrast to that. And as someone, I feel like, who is still kind of finding her own path and really sort of extending myself in this way, in terms of like, feeling like I'm creating something from nothing. Like, this is the sort of experience I feel. I find that whilst things are taking shape internally in myself, in my creative act, I feel like things are yet to take shape externally. And so I sometimes feel conflicted about, especially when I meet new people, like, how do I introduce myself currently? Do I just say I'm an artist? Or do I say, yes, I'm an artist and I also make videos? Like, you know, but I'm also so much more than that. So, how do I even go about sort of telling my own experience? And I often find that, it takes me a long time to find like self acceptance in myself, and then to sort of share myself with other people, where I'm putting myself in situations where I might be judged, I might be ridiculed, or just, I might not be seen like in the best light, is very vulnerable to me. But then my friend, she teaches currently at 2 universities, and seeing that it was the beginning of the year, she was telling me a story about how she had to introduce herself to a class full of lots of students, but also other professors who had also introduced themselves. And she was saying that, they came up and these professors introduced themselves in terms of, the degrees that they've had, the projects that they've done, etc., etc. Yeah, what they've done professionally, that sort of thing. But she was telling me that she decided to include a slide, like an extra slide, I believe, of just her in different environments, particularly one, she described it as like, like her in a picture, like holding a big piece of seaweed. And she said the first thing that, well, she said before she went on stage to, present to the students, she felt like, okay, you know, how are they going to perceive me? And I'm also sort of, stood in the room with my peers and other professors, and she had sort of internal doubts, but she still sort of went up on stage, and she sort of, she found herself saying, when it got to the slide, like, look at this seaweed, what a magnificent piece of seaweed is that? And I thought, like, that is amazing. And I love that story so much, because it shows that, to be yourself actually means to risk being rejected. Because she, in that moment, wouldn't know like which students would think of her as weird, or which ones would be like, wow, like, I'm inspired. Because personally for me, like, I would be inspired as a student, like looking at my future professor being like, wow, I don't just have to be X profession. I can also be this person who is into these quirky interests, and that really opens up the sort of a whole personality of a human. And I think that is what makes people interesting, is their quirky interests and, little things that they get into. And I found a lot of actually a sense of courage in that. The fact that she was able to do it to a room full of strangers, or well, firstly strangers, but of course, like soon to be her students and also her colleagues, etc. I found that very, very courageous. And I thought, if she can do that, then I can also risk in that sense too, in when I introduce myself. Because that's the thing, right? The part of rejection, especially when we are trying to relate to another human being, is there will always be like the potential for being rejected or being loved and admired or accepted. Like, these two polarities will exist in every kind of experience we have. But sometimes I personally let the parts of me that are more fearful to be judged, I find that I'm led by that feeling more so than out of curiosity. Like, if you think about it, someone, when you share your quirky side, the right people will absolutely love it. Like, I love that weird side about my friend, right? Like, there will be people like that. Like, I have in my life people who accept me for who I am, not just because I do X, Y, or Z, but just because of the way I am. And there will be those people, but there will also be people who judge you and think that you are crazy just because they can't relate to you. And I don't know whether it's just for any sort of reason. I don't know what particular reason this is, but right now, like, I'm actually opening myself up to the potential of being curious. Like, if I'm sharing something about myself that might seem a bit more vulnerable, that might seem like it might be out of context socially, just to be curious about how that person will react, just to be curious about how that person would just react to what I say or what I do. And coming out of that curiosity, I think, would bring us so much more actually like freedom than feeling so fearful. And it's only, I think, when I come into sort of conversations with a good friend or sort of think it through in this particular way that I actually realize I am coming from this place of feeling fearful when I want to be fully myself. So one of the things that my favorite poet-philosopher David Whyte often talks about is, he said, in life, like, we will always be heartbroken. There will never be an experience where we aren't heartbroken in many different ways. And if we are able to accept that, then I've stopped because I can hear my cat going a bit crazy upstairs. So if we are able to accept that, to have different experiences in life and to open ourselves up to different experiences in life is to be heartbroken in some way, shape, or form, then we would stop trying to not be heartbroken, right? So it's in a similar way where I was feeling fearful about introducing myself fully as myself. I think that is me feeling scared to be heartbroken in some ways. So that's the way I see it. And I really like that phrase, like, just explaining life in a sense of being like heartbroken. And there's something actually really beautiful about sort of like the most, if the most fearful situations that we hold in our minds came true, I think we would eventually find out that we can survive them. And I think we would actually find out that we can learn something from them and grow from them. But in our minds, it will always be more scarier than it seems. And that's always been my personal experience, is that side of me that wants to protect myself kind of get overtaken, rather than the part of me that really does accept that, I do accept deeply in my heart that, yes, like, the more I take risks in life, the more I open myself up to change and new experiences, the more there will be like polarities in experiences. There will be sometimes situations where I'm hurt. There will be sometimes situations where I am loved or I am accepted, or something good comes out. And I think I'm able to hold these polarities of experiences a little bit more, at least inside myself. And having sort of open conversations like I had with my friend actually makes me open up to risk more and to approach life from a more braver, courageous perspective. And this story that I talked about was, of course, like very particular. Like, in a way, we relate to other people and we talk with other people, right? But as an artist, as a person, like sharing my art online, whether it be videos or writing or paintings, I am opening myself up to rejection every single time. I can't control how the algorithm will work. I can't control how the algorithm will work. And I also can't control if someone will really like my work and want to purchase it or not. And sometimes things are as they are because it's just not the right time yet. And I don't think this experience is just for artists who share online. I think it's the same. Like, for example, if you are, say, if I eventually, apply for an exhibition or a show, I might be rejected. There is a clear possibility that if I open myself up to these sorts of situations too, like, there is a possibility that I will get accepted in some shows, and there's a possibility that I might get rejected in some shows. And I think to kind of let let your artistic creations be out in the world, I think it's really important, because we need more art and we need more honest creative acts in this world. But it does mean that we do open ourselves up to rejection at the same time in various ways, right? In terms of the way people might act or not, in terms of algorithm, in terms of institutions. Like, somehow we are not in control of that. And there is beauty in that too, but there is also an element of painfulness in that as well. And lately, how I've been reframing these sorts of experiences is, for me, like, as long as I am deepening the relationship with my craft, as in whether I'm growing in my paintings or writing or finding and experimenting and continuing to sort of express and, finding little new things to do, like the filming or the editing or the painting in different ways. And if I am getting closer to the vision of what I imagined in my head for a particular video or a painting or a piece of writing, then that is actually great. Like, that means I've done a good job. And the rest I can't control, and that's okay. But as long as I'm deepening the relationship with myself and my craft, that is growth and success for me. Quote unquote success, because I think success is also like overly used as a word. Even the act of sharing, right? Like publishing your work online or offline is a deeply courageous act, and being able to face that tension that I feel when I feel rejected, or when I'm pained about a rejection I've had, or when the algorithm doesn't do well, or whatever it may be, right? Like when I'm able to find a sense of wholeness in myself, even despite the rejection, like when I'm able to find acceptance in myself, when I'm still able to love what I do, even despite any form of quote unquote external rejection, I feel like that is growth. I feel like that is me literally expanding. Why? Because I think I'm then like opening myself up as a human to a variety of emotions and experiences. Because rejection is only one part of an experience. What comes through it can also be openness and growth and acceptance and forgiveness. When said out loud, all of these are words, but as an experience, to go through it takes time and sometimes self-reflection and effort and patience, and sometimes just a good old cry, you know? And finding wholeness in this way, actually, I think makes me a better human being. And why are we here, right? Doing things that we do, if not to be more human, accept ourselves more as like the wholeness of who we are. So yeah, rejection. I hope that makes sense. It's later at night, so maybe that's why it's well suited to talk about experiences like this, because I don't know if I can talk about it in the morning. But here I am talking about it late at night, and I think it sounds like it could make sense. So yeah, if you are curious in some way, shape, or form, I think to kind of just open yourself up to new experiences and feel a little bit fearful about those new experiences, and resistant about, the potential of being rejected in some way, shape, or form, heartbroken or disappointed in some way, shape, or form. This is what I'm telling myself, because for me, like, I think that is a part of my everyday experience currently, is that no matter what, I think I will learn something about myself. And that in itself is an experience worth having. Like, I genuinely do think that no matter what happens, right? If things go our way, great. If things don't go our way, then we can learn something from it. And I think that is a great experience to have. So without rambling on so much, I'm gonna end it here. I hope that you have a great week, and let me know in the comments, what are you drinking today as you are listening to this audio. Make sure you have a hot drink with you when you tune in to Teesside Thursdays, and share with me your experiences on rejection and how you feel about it, how you've dealt with it, because personally for me, that would be really great and useful and just interesting to know about your experience as well. Okay, I'm going to end it there. I will see you in the next video. Bye. I'm hushing the
I'm running up stones on the edge of the bank. Rally the troops for another refrain. I sing this softly to myself. I sing this softly